special interview is what we get you today. Salman Khan, or more popularly known as Sal Khan of Khan Academy, the world's most well-known free online education site, is here in India. Of course, launched this in Hindi. It's a new initiative they've come up with. We'll get started with him on just a bit. But you know, you've been called a whole host of things. I mean, you've been called the education leader of the world. You've been called the messiah of math. How do you see yourself? Like, what is Sal Khan in his mind?
I mean, I consider myself a very lucky person where I get to go work with a great team. I mean, Khan Academy is much more than me now. And think about how do we provide, I mean, our mission statement as a not-for-profit is a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere, which is a bit of a audacious thing, but we think we can do it. So yeah, I consider myself lucky, and you know, and I also have 3 young kids at home, so I also, you know, I do my share of changing diapers and whatever else. I also consider myself as a very overworked dad.
Right. You know, I'm going to get into the family life in just a bit, but you know, we've of course got the numbers are staggering of the kind of sort of people that we are looking at getting to the Khan Academy. They're teachers, they're educationists, they're of course students, there might be parents also. And India, it seems clearly, ticking many boxes for Khan Academy. Your presence here, of course, proves that. What about India is a space that you're finding exciting?
Well, India, I mean, it's obviously just the sheer scale of India. We're talking about hundreds of millions of students. Obviously, this is where my roots are from. So there's always not only a desire, but also an understanding of how bad the need is. You know, I have distant family members who aren't getting proper education, and then you can scale that up to an entire country. So India is the place where we've decided to take our first, you know, real focus. We have a head of Indian operations that we've just brought on here in Delhi, and our goal is nothing short of, over the next few decades, making you know, any student has access to some type of a device. He or she can self-educate themselves, or if they have a school, it superpowers that.
Right. That was actually going to be my next question, because I would imagine that where the numbers lie are students who don't usually sort of have access to smartphones, or their parents perhaps don't have those computers at home. And it's the access that is, of course, the big problem. How do you find yourself working around that?
Yeah, well, you know, where we see our role is let's create the content, the videos, the exercises, the software, and let's work with the partners in telecom and infrastructure who can really drive the kind of last mile access to students. I don't think it's going to be solved overnight, but we hope we can be a catalyst for this, for people, even in governments, to invest more in the actual access piece, because then they realize, wow, if students have access, they can start to educate themselves. They can actually improve the lives of themselves and their families. And this won't be solved overnight, but the adoption curves for things like smartphones and for broadband are very promising. So I think over 5 or 10 years, things could be very good.
Right. And while you've been sort of conceiving and working on rolling this product out for India, what's been sort of the most encouraging thing that you've encountered, and also the most frustrating or challenging?
Well, the most encouraging thing is, even before we made this explicit focus on India, we've seen over 8 million you know, lessons delivered in India. So there's already a lot of usage. And amongst the students who do have access, we are actually seeing there's actually very high penetration.
Right.
And so we realize there is a hunger here, and we just need to make it accessible in various languages, address some of these access issues. In terms of frustrations, well, you know, every problem is an opportunity. I think that's it. You know, India is not one language. It's not just one culture. There's many things we have to, it's not just one government. So I think the team here in India, we have our work cut out. We have to really navigate this, and but you know, we're up for the challenge. I think, once again, we keep pushing.
Yeah.
The tools are there. I think in the next year or two, we're already going to see big gains, but over the next 5, 10, 15 years, we can really make a big dent.
Right. And how do you sort of set a target for yourself? What will be this opportunity turning into a big success for Khan Academy? Are there numbers that are sort of, you've got them in your head that I need to reach these numbers? When will you say, wow, that worked?
We have some pretty big ambitions. You know, in the US, we've estimated that about 30% of American students use Khan Academy at least once in the year. And we want them to use it even more frequently. we aspire for numbers like that in India or beyond. And so, yeah, if that happens, that would be pretty good.
Right. You know, I heard some of the questions that you were asked, and that, of course, has been the focus on what's happening in education in India. Access being one thing, good quality access to education being a big challenge here, or also where are the trained teachers? You ask a group of youngsters how many of them want to teach, and very few now raise their hands. We've sort of taken the joy out of teaching. It's not lucrative and all of that. How do you see Khan Academy stepping into what is clearly a vacuum and filling it?
Well, I think that's it. You know, if a student does not have access to someone who can teach them trigonometry or calculus, Khan Academy can be there. If you know they're not connecting with what's being taught in physics or chemistry or biology, Khan Academy can be there. If you're a teacher and you are trying to improve your own skills, and it's very hard if you have a day job, well, you can go online on your phone, on your laptop, and you can learn the skills. So we see it in all of those dimensions.
Right. And what about the fact that India has now become a country where it's 100% or nothing? You finish your school and you get a 95%, and you have students rolling their eyes and saying, oh my God, I did so badly. So learning comes later. You just have to get those grades, I mean, somehow. And the other thing is, when you are in college, then you just have to sort of get this really record placement where you're earning this 8-digit, 9-digit salary. So our measures of success, learning doesn't really figure in them. How do you sort of...
Yeah, well, you know, this whole idea of kind of learning versus credentialism and all of this, this is not just India, this is the whole planet. And you know, what I tell everyone, which I tell my family, you know, if you really focus on the learning, the credentials and all that comes, and it comes in a much more enjoyable way. And you really start to understand, you know, as human beings, one of the things that makes human beings different than most other animals is that we learn. We're learning animals. And so you're almost closing off a big part of your humanity if you view all of this knowledge as just something, as a checkbox to just move on. And if you do it, you hit two birds with one stone. I mean, by learning it fundamentally and intuitively, you're going to get the 9,500, you're going to get the positions, and you're going to be in a better position to be effective. Now, this is a longer philosophical a question, but you know, as much as possible, we hope to promote kind of a deeper appreciation for a lot of this learning.
Right. Now, you just mentioned how, you know, Bill Gates, after that little clip that you saw, saying that, hey, I watch Khan Academy, you know, I use Khan Academy. I would imagine that's like the biggest boost anyone can possibly get. And you said that you were in your closet when he called. But when you met him, tell us a bit about that, because that's beyond anyone's wildest dreams, I would imagine, including yours.
Yeah. Well, you know, growing up, you know, Bill Gates is, I think, for everyone, he's a hero. He seems larger than life. And so I remember the first time that I met him, and he just walks into the room, and then he says, oh, so tell me about what you're doing. And I start, and the whole time I was presenting, you know, 30% of my brain says, you're talking to Bill Gates, you're talking to Bill Gates, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. But, you know, my big learning is he's a very impressive, I mean, everything you read about his intelligence and his breadth is true. I mean, it's shockingly true. But his heart, which you don't read as much about, I mean, he genuinely cares about these issues, and not for any purpose of ego or anything else. He says, look, I'm in a position of influence in the world. I want to solve these fundamental problems: education, healthcare, energy. So yeah, I mean, I view him as a mentor now, and he's, you know, I can't imagine anyone better.
Right. We could sort of do with our own Bill Gates here in India. We sort of have people in top lists and all of that, but we don't have philanthropy. Somehow doesn't come very easily or naturally to Indians. Why do you see that? Everyone knows the problems. I mean, healthcare, like you mentioned for Gates, there's education, there's all those people who go to bed hungry every night.
I'd like to think that's changing. I mean, one of the efforts that Bill Gates is driving is the Giving Pledge, which by itself, you know, he's really creating this culture of people who are capable of giving away a large chunk of their fortunes to improve the world. And I think we're also starting to see that in India. You know, we've already started to talk to some, I would say, visionary philanthropists that I think are moving in that direction. We've had some very good talks with the Tata Trust. You'll learn more about it later this week. I think they're going to be kind of one of the foundations of this effort of Khan Academy, and we hope to bring other kind of very visionary philanthropists along this line.
How much of this success is yours and how much is Nadia's?
It's both, you know. If Nadia, and she gets a lot of credit. If she wasn't willing to take the time out, I wouldn't have gotten on this journey. I talked to Nadia recently. Her mom has actually joined me on this trip.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I tell Nadia all the time, there's a lot riding on your success.
Yeah,
That you have to
yeah, that would really be like super, right? You know,
exactly,
how Nadia went
exactly,
through those YouTube
exactly.
things. Now, on a personal note, you have often left events saying that, boss, I need to go home, I need to bathe my kids, I need to put them to bed. That's, of course, very important. So would it be fair to say that you've worked out that elusive, to use a cliche, work-life balance?
Well, you know, I was very lucky. My job after business school, I was at a hedge fund. And when most people associate a hedge fund, they think, oh, people work 80 hours a week and intense and no balance. And I was ready for that. I was ready to do whatever it takes. And my boss, Dan Wohl, I actually thank him in my book, he told me, go home. And I said, no, I'm ready to work. He said, no. Our job isn't to make many decisions and work ourselves. Our job is to make good decisions. And the way you make good decisions is by investing in yourself, investing in your family, building your soul. And so I never forgot that. And so even at Khan Academy, yes, I'm always thinking about what can we do next. But you know, if you don't invest in yourself and your family, then it's all for naught. And especially now that I have kids, you know, the last thing, it would be I'd be the biggest hypocrite if I'm there, you know, making these videos for everyone else, and if my own kids are somehow getting shortchanged. And that's one of the biggest joys. It's tiring. it's one of the biggest joys. And now actually I can use them. You know, they're my new Nadias, right?
Exactly.
I see the world through their lens,
Right.
and I can think about how can Khan Academy be better for millions or billions of other students.
Right. And what is their response like? I mean, do they look at you and say, nah, what is this all about? Simplified. What are you talking about? What's their response?
Well, they're young. They're 6, 4, and 1-year-old. The 6-year-old is using Khan Academy. He enjoys it. You know, I'm sure he gets tired of hearing my voice.
Kids and parents, yes. Yes. Well, you know, I need to wrap now. I know you need to go, but I will tell you this. When I announced at work that I was going to sort of meet Al Khan, I thought I would have to sort of spend some time in telling people, you know, what he does or who he is. And you'll be surprised to know. I mean, I was very
which
surprised.
Salman Khan you're talking?
Yeah. And there they said that our kids are using the videos and they may make us download the app. So that's, of course, an encouraging sign, isn't it, for you as you step into India more with Hindi. What in India, besides your ambitious targets, would you say when you step back and say, mission accomplished? Or does that ever happen?
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever say mission accomplished. Let's move on to healthcare.
Right.
But, you know, if even in the near term, we can find a set of stakeholders, philanthropists, corporations as part of their social responsibility, government officials who say, we're going to make this work. Even, you know, celebrities and media who say, we want to make sure that students, their imagination is captured. Then I think we have all the ingredients for success.
Right. One absolutely last question. Do you think it's the name Salman Khan that ensures some, like, you know, you're assured of 70% success, if not more, you know?
The name Salman Khan, I think, has helped Khan Academy. I think there are many young people who have gone searching for something else and then have inadvertently learned algebra.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking our time to speak to us, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.